Hello everyone, Moment Time Hopper here. It's been a while. This video is probably not what you're expecting to see, if you were expecting to see anything at all, considering how long I've been gone. I apologize for being gone for so long, by the way. I didn't intend to. I got very busy with a bunch of different life stuff, especially considering the biggest life thing, a new job. Anyways, time to explain what this video is going to be. If any of you have ever heard of the incredible YouTubers DJC Gaming, can't speak for whatever reason, and Magnus Roberts, then you probably already know where this idea is going. And if you don't know where this idea is going, and the title and thumbnail didn't give it away, you should go subscribe to DJC Gaming and Magnus Roberts and maybe watch one of their videos on it before you come back to this. Anyways, this is going to be a complete and total rewrite of The Walking Dead using a randomizer wheel and several other tools. But I'll get into that in a minute. Anyways, here are how the ground rules for this is going to work. First, I will be going over the world episode by episode, with each of these videos covering roughly a season. Second, at the beginning of each season, I will roll for who is in the main cast and who is not, with limits based on the number of main cast in the original. And each season following the first season of each canon series, I will be discussing the different character relationships and how the previous season has formed things. Third, I will be using a randomizer wheel to determine if a character dies, is in a specific group, or does anything major like, for example, kill a villain. I will have a few different wheels. In these rewrites, if you've seen Magnus Roberts, you'll know it is extremely common early on for kids to die in very stupid ways. So I have a separate kids wheel until the end of the third season, when Carl and Kenan became a more prominent fighter. I will also have a main character wheel, which is obvious, a side character wheel, and lastly, each villain team will have their own wheel that does not contain their main leaders, i.e. the Governor, Negan, Maddox, etc., etc. Fourth, I will be determining major decisions based on a coin flip unless I think the decision is unrealistic for the cast of that timeline, i.e. a Rick that spares a Negan that killed, say, Carl at the lineup. And I will be doing, at minimum, one of these coin flips per episode. Fifth, we must speak about immortality. I will not be able to kill the main character of each series until their canon death point, aside from the exception of a Rick vs. Shane scenario. Other than that, main characters will be immortal to the point of which they died or disappeared in canon, at which point they will be able to die like any other character. The child of the main character will also be immortal until their canon death point. Sixth, for Fear the Walking Dead, I will be flipping a coin on whether Madison or Nick is the main character, and then, in Season 4, it will be the Walking Dead series character that came over versus the original main character if alive, and against the Nick equivalent if previous main character is not alive. Said MC will be immortal until the final episode. Seventh, for the main series of Walking Dead, the main character will be a coin flip between Rick and Shane, and when they die, if Carl is not alive, it will be a coin flip between the two most prominent surviving characters by that point. Said MC will be immortal until the final episode. Eighth, I will be adding or removing some possible events based on if certain characters are alive or if events are still likely. Alright, so let's see who wins the coin flip. Yo! Oh, this is gonna be a spicy season! The Walking Dead, Episode 1, Days Gone By. The episode opens with Shane moving quietly around the perimeter of the camp. We hear people talking in the distance behind him when a crack sounds from the tree line. Shane signals to a man on the top of an RV whose face was invisible due to glare. He looks around the area and sees what seems to be a deer. As he slowly approaches it, the deer charges past him, scared of something groaning nearby. Shane reaches for his gun, but before he could shoot, a shot rang out, and the deer went down. Shane looked down towards the dying deer. It was hit in the side, and we get a flashback. Shane and Rick are in their police car eating hamburgers and fries and joking about women. Rick brings up that he and Lori have been fighting and that she thinks he doesn't love their family. Before Shane can calm his friend's mind, however, a radio call comes in about a high-speed pursuit in progress. They rush to the scene, and when they arrive, they set up a spike trap before getting behind the car doors with their fellow officers Leon and Lambert. Soon enough, the car arrives and crashes. As Rick approaches it, Shane covers him. A man appears from the wrecked car and shoots at Rick and is gunned down before another man shoots Rick in the chest and is also shot. Shane runs to Rick, saying that Rick getting shot scared him a lot. And as Rick jokes about not telling Lori, he gets shot in the side by a third man, whom Shane kills. Shane sits by Rick's side, screaming he is hit, as Lambert runs up to help and Leon calls an ambulance. We then see a sped-up scene of Shane lifting Rick into the ambulance with the paramedics, telling Lori what happened over the phone, as well as a solid minute of Shane's compiled visits to Rick's hospital room, where he cries, worries, paces about, and tries to speak to Rick, always bringing him new flowers every time he comes to visit. We then cut to Shane, driving back to the station when he is called on his radio about a disturbance at the Taylor residence. Shane talks to Leon over the radio, as Leon says there have been some crazies around town, and that he just arrested Rob Spanner at a diner, before continuing on to mention that Rob nearly took his head off by swinging a tire iron at him. Shane jokes that it must be the full moon, then notes how quiet things seem, and wonders if maybe it was a bad call. They talk about what to do with Rob, and Shane learns that the hospital is completely full. So he says to hold Rob in jail for now, before he heads towards the house. Before he even gets the chance to head inside, Shane spots Mrs. Heller nearby, with a gash along the entirety of her arm. She says that some teen tried to scare her, even acting like he was going to bite her, and she fell against her mailbox in fear. Shane promises to catch the kid, and she goes on to add that the boy was just shuffling around slowly, like he didn't care about anything, and notes that everyone seems so crazy today. Maybe it's the heat. Shane asks if she has heard anything around the Taylor's residence. She mentioned that she heard a loud pop, like maybe a champagne cork, which makes Shane think of gunfire. Mrs. Miller also mentions that she saw Patty and her boyfriend there. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out. Shane tells Mrs. Heller to hide in his car and let no one in, and he rushes inside. He finds Gary Taylor, standing over Patty's boyfriend's body with a shotgun. Gary insists that he had no choice, rambling like a complete madman. As Shane approaches, Gary bolts. Shane calls Leon for backup, but Leon says it will be 9 minutes before he can get there, so Shane searches the house for himself. He looks and he looks and he looks, and he finally finds Gary. He corners him. Gary explains that he shot the boy because he wouldn't stop attacking Patty, no matter what he did to him. He didn't stop until his head was blown clean off. Shane lowers his weapon and asks about Patty, and Gary says she ran, but she should be safe. After calming him down, Shane gets Gary outside and into his car, dropping Mrs. Heller off at her home before heading to the station. When Shane arrives, he comments on how bad Rob looks, and Leon talks about how he had to beat him up a bit because he was still acting crazy, and says that Rob had some pretty bad cuts on him, and maybe that's why he's behaving so strangely. Regardless, Shane says to Leon that Gary is going in there too, and one cop recommends handcuffing him, to which Shane responds that there is no real reason to, as he'll behave. Gary, of course, screams that he can't be locked up, and attacks Leon before being thrown into the cell. Shane then talks to Leon for a bit before the news comes on with a report from Mercy Hospital's ER. It has been overwhelmed by a rapidly spreading virus, and before they can get any more information, the TV cuts out. Leon says, "I told you the hospitals were backed up," while Shane says that the TVs are starting to mess up as well. Shane then turns to ask Leon if he's okay, and Leon rubs his hand, saying he's fine. Suddenly, Patty shows up, covered in blood, saying she's there for her dad, and begs Shane to let him go. Shane notices her cuts, and she insists that they're just from branches, but he doesn't buy it. He promises to keep Gary safe, and she thanks him. When Shane asks why Gary shot her boyfriend, Patty says he was sick, attacking her like an animal. At first, Shane dismisses it as his standard violent drunkenness, until Patty reveals a massive bite on her shoulder. Shane recoils immediately and insists that she needs a doctor, and tells her to sit tight while he gets Gary in first aid. Gary is still in his cell screaming when Shane comes over, and Shane yells at him to calm down. When he asks an officer how Rob is doing, he learns that other than the occasional groan, he still hasn't done anything. Shane then turns to Gary and says that his daughter is here, and Gary still fights until he hears they are moving him into an interrogation room. The officer opens the door to let Gary out as Shane looks at his phone to see a text from Lori, saying that she is going out to check on Rick. Shane texts that he'll go instead, and before Shane can even look up, he hears a scream and he sees the officer holding his neck, bleeding profusely. Looking past the officer, Shane sees Rob attacking Gary as well, so he screams for Leon to help him. Just as Leon arrives, Shane shoots Rob in the head, just before Rob could charge at him. Shane is shocked by the sight, but he looks down. He checks on Gary before hearing a click. Leon says that it may be Patty and wants to go check, but Shane asks if he has any injuries. Leon rubs his hand again and says he's fine, and Shane lets him go out, but tells him to turn off his safety, as they don't know what's out there. And Shane talks to Gary. Gary goes on and on about how Rob was just like Patty's boyfriend, saying the devil had taken them. Shane talks to Gary, calms him down as best he can, and says that he's safe. And Gary says that Shane is a good man, apologizes to him for not trusting him in the past. Then, they both hear Leon scream from the other room. Shane charges in and sees Patty attacking Leon with the same dead eyes as Rob had. He yells at Leon to move as he tries to shoot Patty, but Gary jumps in the way. Gary gets into a quick scuffle with Shane, and Shane shoves him aside before looking towards Patty. We see flashbacks in Shane's head, just quick flashes of their time together. The day Shane first asked her out on a date, their date to the park, their prom. We see a tear fall from Shane's eye as he raises his gun and fires. Gary falls to his knees, and Leon looks on in shock as Shane says he has to warn Lori. He texts Lori not to go anywhere, and then proceeds to go outside towards his car. Gary and Leon follow. Gary is inconsolable, as much as Shane tries to calm him, saying he's truly sorry. He recommends that Gary goes to Atlanta. Things are worse than the news says. It's clear now. He talks to Leon and said he should leave as well. Now, this is where we have to pause the story. This is going to be the major decision of episode 1. This is the only one for the episode, which is why the reading portion was so long. But I have to flip a coin on whether or not Shane manages to convince any of the people he has encountered in this episode to come with him to Atlanta. If it lands on heads, it is a yes. If it lands on tails, it is a no. Then we will roll a virtual die, with really the 4-sided die being our only option, to determine whether 1, Leon, 2, Mrs. Heller, or 3, Gary Taylor, go with Shane. It is heads, which means somebody will go with Shane. We just have to figure out who. It's Leon! So Leon is going to go with Shane up to Atlanta to figure out what has gone wrong. This will be interesting. Leon at first says he wants to stay, but thinks that maybe in Atlanta they can find more information on what is happening, so he hops in the squad car with Shane. Shane says that he needs to save Rick and Rick's family first, which Leon agrees to, and they rush to the hospital. When they arrive, soldiers are executing people left and right, and Shane manages to grab a nurse But she screams and slips out of his hands before Leon grabs her as well, and they pull her into the room. Shane asks her how he can get Rick out of here, but she says that he can't without killing him. Shane punches the wall as Leon tries to calm him down, and the woman tries to run. She is shot the second she enters the hull, and Leon pulls Shane down behind Rick's bed just as his two soldiers arrive to sweep the room. When they leave, Shane begs Rick to wake up, and when the power goes out, Leon tries to pull him out, saying that Rick is gone. Shane shoves Leon off and cries as he feels for Rick's pulse. He feels nothing, and so he allows Leon to pull him out of the room. Just as Leon is about to run, Shane tells Leon to wait as he slams a gurney in front of the door to block it off for Rick. The flashback ends with the slam of the gurney, and we see Shane looking down at the deer, seeing its pain. And we see him put it down before dragging it back to camp as we see Leon climb down from the top of the RV. And with that, the episode ends. Now that that part of the video is finished, I would need to put Mrs. Heller and Mr. Taylor here, because they are both dead. Or, well, I guess I should put them in missing, because it's more so we're never going to see them again, not that they're necessarily dead. Nah, screw it. In canon, they both die, so it doesn't really matter that I have them here. Anyways, that was fun. I do have some things that I will need to do now that we have finished off this episode. We will need to put all of the characters onto their wheels and determine who is main characters or not. Firstly, already, we've got to get the kids onto the kid wheel. Carl, Sophia, Lewis, and Eliza. There we go. Carl will be the main character of the kids, just because Shane is already our main character. And we already spoke about the immortality rule. He will be immortal till season 8. Just like... I don't know, why would I say... Yeah, it is 8. 8 is when Carl canonically died. Alright, so now we have to add everyone here, which I think means I'm going to have to add everyone but Shane that is an adult in this to this list. So Leon, Rick, Glenn, T-Dog, Daryl, Merle, Andrea, Amy, Dale, Morales, Miranda, Lori, and I think I am missing one other pair. Daryl and Merle, Amy, Andrea, Dale, Miranda, Morales, Jim and Jackie. Maybe I'm missing one more. Rick, Glenn, T-Dog, Daryl, Merle, Andrea, Amy, Dale, Morales, Miranda, Lori, Jim, Jackie. Who could I possibly be missing? Carol and Ed. I'm missing Carol and Ed. I am a fool. So, shuffle, 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 shuffle. Let's see who will be our 5 main characters aside from Shane and Carl. That makes sense. Yes. Rick, being one of our 5 main characters, makes perfect sense. He is essentially the Shane of this world, ironically enough. Let's see who is next. Dale. Huh. That works. Dale was the moral compass of the original group. I can see that working out very well here as a part of the main character group. I think he might have even been one of the main characters in the original Season 1, if I remember correctly. Alright, so we've got 3 more left. I've already shuffled this a couple of times. Let's see who's next. Oh. This is a remarkably lucky wheel so far. Yeah, this is a remarkably lucky wheel so far. Huh. Alright, so Leon, the guy who is already set up to be the right-hand man of Shane. Let's see who's next. Daryl. Now, this will be really interesting, having Daryl be one of the main characters in the first season. Because having him just be one of those main characters doesn't work super well because of the fact of what happens to Merle. Although what happens to Merle in canon might not happen here. So I suppose it doesn't technically matter. It would be interesting to use this as setup, though, when I write the second episode. Because Daryl being closer to Shane... It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Maybe Shane runs things a bit differently here now that he has Leon with him. I don't know. I'll have to think on that for when I write the second episode. And lastly, Carol. Huh. I don't know how that'll work. Rick, Leon, Daryl, and Carol. I feel like I already have... I feel like I'm missing somebody that I had here. Morales, Glenn, Lori, Merle, Miranda, Ed, Andrea, Jim, Amy, T-Dog, Jackie. We would have Shane, Daryl, Dale, that's who it was. Yes. How did I forget Dale? So our main characters of this group will be, eventually, Shane, Rick, Leon, Dale, Daryl, and Carol. Maybe Carol will get her arc about fighting back against Ed earlier on. Either way, that is really interesting, and I very much like that. Let me put everyone into their respective slots on the wheel. Or on the tier list, sorry. Alright. I have a feeling that this season is going to be very, very interesting. If you guys enjoyed this episode, though, I would like to recommend that you leave a like on this video. And... oh yeah, one more thing. Can't believe I almost forgot. With how long it took to write this episode script, I am thinking I'm going to do these episode by episode instead of purely, season by season. Because I have realized, just with how long this episode is, with the reading portion and the portion of me setting up the rules for this specific episode to let you guys all know it, each episode, even minus the rules segment, will be, on average, roughly 25 minutes. So, just because of how long that would be for each individual episode, I think I will just make them all their own videos. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!